So this design is going to be the snake. This is my typical snake that I do. Sometimes I do a forehead version where I turn their eyes into snakes and just kind of make the forehead scaly, but I find kids love this snake and it's very simple, very fast. You can obviously, this one's a little more detailed than maybe I would do, or I'm trying to do 5-minute designs, but no matter what, it's usually a wow factor and it's easy. So this is my snake. I'll show you how I do it. I usually start the 1-inch flat. It depends how big the kid's face is, but I can usually get away with a 1-inch. I do snakes of all colors, but this is my favorite split cake for snakes, and this is GTX paints again. This one's Ochre, Firefly, Mint Julep, and Lemon Meringues. I find it like a really nice kind of dark to light green split cake versus the one that I would use for leaves, which is more green and yellow. So the snake's super easy. You can either do a big swoop here or do 2 individuals, but I kind of switch it up depending on the kids. The one that I had done before was this. You can make it wavy for interest, or you can just make it flat, whatever you want to do. Down here I usually do the head on the cheek, and I kind of start my brush sideways, and I kind of think like a rainbow. Like I want that rounded shape to the head where like the eye would be, so I kind of want it flat, and then I go up where the eye would be, and then I bring the brush back down, and then I swoop it up. Swoop it up there. Sometimes you can make it a little bigger. See what I mean? Like that space where you know, oh, it's a head. And then bring it down, and then I can, sometimes I'll do a little mouth, and then I just whoop. That's that. And then this side, I always do a tail, so sometimes I point it here, or point it towards the mouth, so it's the same kind of direction. Alright. So, just like that, someone's like, wow, you have a snake on your face, but wait, we won't stop there. So, if you're part of the jam, you are getting this handy eye cheat sheet. So I'm gonna pick an eye for my snake. I kind of like this one, and I'm going to just start with a blob of white. I usually lay that base down pretty quick, the white, so it can dry, and then I'll go over with the detail after. You could do this yellow too, I suppose. Like a yellow snake eye would look cool, or blue, or really any color you want. But for the sake of this tutorial, I do white, and also I do white, I guess, because I can do the fangs at the same time. Which kind of saves on loading my brush. But yeah, that eye shape is kind of a triangle, so I'm just gonna make like a small triangle shape. Here we go. Boom, and then I'm gonna let that dry. And while those things are happening, I usually go in and pick a darker color. I'm probably gonna go with the metallic. I just think it would be fun for this one. I love GTX, all their colors, and just experimenting with all the different color options. Like when you have more, you can do more. It's pretty cool. I always just go in and add random stripes. Sometimes I use a stencil for this part as well. Actually, I'll show you. I have a whole bunch that would be like reptile skin stencils, and sometimes I'll pop that on if I'm in a really big rush, and I'll dauber a darker color. But then I have to go in and wash my stencils, and sometimes I don't want to do that. I just don't have time to do that. So sometimes I find it equally fast to just kind of go in and draw your own lines. Side's still wet on the board. I don't know how well that's gonna go. But yeah, I kind of like do little wiggles and then pull, maybe from both directions, so you get a variation. Little wiggle, and then I'll pull, and do a little wiggle, and then I'll pull, wiggle and pull and a wiggle, do it backwards. Really no right or wrong way to do this. just however you want to decorate your snake. Okay. I'm going to add one more here. Okay. And then I also go add some dots because that's the way my snake looks in my head. Okay, once you have all those little details, go in with a smaller liner for this bit. So this is my fairy number 2, also a squishy doodle brush. And I'm going to find my black paint, which is in here. Alright. Usually go in there with the eye first and start it. So this one had like kind of like a 7 shape. It's a cool eye, so we kind of did that. And then we're kind of outlining underneath of it. And then he's also like angry. He's like, rah. And also pulling up a little slit for his eye. Alright. And then I just go and outline him. Do like little squiggles for the mouth and a little slit for the nose. Outline the bottom part. I like to think about the jaw that's in there. Sometimes I add little, just imagine the bottom of the snake here is kind of ridged. And so if you're in a rush, this will usually do with a snake. It will usually do the trick. But if you're not in a rush, I always do the final step, which is a tongue for a little bit in the mouth. So just pick a red. This one I'm going to pick Red Rock, a little bit of a lighter red. Just going to act like the tongue's in there and then pop it out. There we go. That is my snake design. This one's eyes a little more girly. This one's a little more fierce. There you go. How to do a snake the Kate way.